Today I'm going to show you how I decorated the front cover of my Christmas themed junk journal. So I made this using just a cardboard box. So when it came to decorating the cover, I wanted to do something that obviously made it look a little bit more fancy, but that wasn't complicated and was just a really easy DIY method to decorate this cover. So what I decided to do was take inspiration from, when people wrap presents in brown paper and string and then they will DIY the decoration on that. So with like stamps and paint and drawing on them and really sort of customizing them. That was my inspiration for this cover because I was going backwards and forwards whether I wanted to cover up the cardboard entirely because obviously, like, it looks like cardboard, but then I thought actually I want to lean into the fact that it is that more traditional junk journal in a sense. So I wanted to let the cardboard sort of sing on this cover. And so what I did was I used these snowflake stencils and just some white acrylic paint and a sponge, and I just added them around the cover. So I was using like the different sizes and shapes of the snowflakes to get a bit of variety. Now, this wasn't like the cleanest and crispest stenciling I've ever done in my life, but I actually quite like the way that it was a little bit splotchy in places. Like, it was imperfect, which is what I like about my junk journals. And I decided to use the stenciling across all of the front cover, a little bit on the spine, and then only on a portion of the back. Like, I didn't want to cover the entirety of the cover, but I was just sort of picking different places where I wanted to add them. So literally just where I could see different gaps and using the different patterns and designs of the snowflakes as well. So some of them are more like little stars, whereas others are traditional snowflake shapes. And so I just wanted that mix between them. And I think the white really pops on this cardboard cover and makes it look a lot more than it actually is because, this is literally just a cardboard box that I'm using, and it's such an easy way that you can add decoration like this. It almost reminds me of when you see the window displays with the frosty like snow paint on them. It's kind of got that sort of quality to it because of the way that I've applied the paint with the sponge. It adds that texture to the cover. And so I just kept going and I was filling in all of the little gaps. You can see I was even doing some little stars here, which did not turn out the way I thought they would. They literally just look like white blotches of paint. But you'll see as I go on how I managed to actually fix a few of these areas. So if you are stenciling like this as well and you're finding that they're not coming out like as crisp as you want them to, there is a way that you can actually sort of save it a little bit. And I was able to sort of bring in a bit more definition on some of the snowflakes. So my secret weapon here was just my white Uniball Signo pen. So I used this to add some of my own little stars in some of the gaps in the smaller areas. But then what I also did was I used it on the edges of some of the parts I had stenciled. And just using that on some of the edges helped me to give them a bit more definition, but having the little detailing as well. So I was just adding like little stars and little dots, I think really helped to bring this to life as well and help it feel a lot more like full, especially when I was like filling all of the different gaps. So once I had decorated the background of this cover, I was then playing around a little bit with how I wanted to add some text onto the front because I thought about leaving it blank, but then I did really want to add something onto this cover. So I was wondering maybe I could use a tag or I could use some of these little note papers. I had a more like vellum see-through-ish one and also this white one, and you can see I was sort of testing them out and seeing how they worked, and maybe I could layer them. I did really enjoy the way that the snowflakes were see-through on the translucent one, but you'll see when I come to add some stamping onto the paper, the ink didn't take well to the surface at all. It looked really nice at first, but then it all started to kind of feather, and the letters that I had stamped didn't look as clear. And it was also that situation where it wasn't quite drying down properly, so I was also really worried that it would smudge. As you can see here, it was really wet on the surface of that paper, so I was thinking, maybe I can save this by having a tag underneath, but in the end I decided I'm just going to have to restamp this onto the white piece of paper, and I think it actually worked really well as a bit of contrast, and you could clearly see the text that I was using with these little alpha stamps. They're so cute, and I just thought that they would be the perfect touch to a cover like this. When I was thinking about what I wanted to actually stamp onto it, like I was trying to avoid things like just like Christmas journal or like journal. I wanted it to be a little bit more creative, so I ended up going with Merry and Bright, which I thought fit quite well and was not too wordy for the cover itself. So I thought that that was the perfect fit for this little piece of paper, and you can see there the comparison between the two. So I ended up adding this onto the center of the cover, and I was just picking which like Christmassy themed washi tape that I wanted to use. So these I've had for years. They're from Note and Wish. And I thought this one with the pops of green and red would be a nice touch to the cover that was otherwise, pretty neutral. So I just glued down the center of this paper here so that it stayed secure, because obviously the washi wouldn't really hold it in place, especially with it being a cover. But that is pretty much everything that I did for this junk journal cover. As you can see here, I really like the way that it turned out. I'm really looking forward to working within this journal, so if you're not already, do subscribe because I will be posting videos working in this journal throughout this month. So I hope you enjoyed creating along with me. As always, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.